Guys, welcome to another Pencast. This one is on monetary policy. This is part one. This is background, really. Alright, so who conducts monetary policy in New Zealand? Well, it's basically the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. They are concerned with monetary conditions of the economy. It includes things like inflation, credit card growth, and its banking system. Right, well, let's just spend a bit of time looking at how the Reserve Bank relates to government. So look, I can use this as the government, and here are the government's internal accountants, which I call the Treasury. They're more than that. That'll do. Some people refer to them as the bean counters, but that's being a little bit unkind. And so what we've got here is the Reserve Bank. The Reserve Bank has got some independence from government due to an agreement between the government. It's called the Policy Targets Agreement. So are these two physically? Well, yes, they are. If you go down to Wellington, you'll find the terrace, and over on this side there's the Reserve Bank. That's something like number one. Across the other side is the Treasury, and that's number two, the terrace. And over here, is, yes, the beehive. So you can see that these people talk to these people, these people talk to these people, these people talk to these people, and so there's a nice little triangle of communication. And I'm sure these lines of communication get pretty thick around budget time, and of course tomorrow is the budget for, what are we in, 2014, 2015 year? I'm not sure, did I get it right? Alright, well, just turning the page. So what I want to talk about is the financial system. Probably I should have referred to it as the banking system. It's probably a better description of what I want to talk about, the banking system. So we'll go back into black. Alright, so look, here we have the Reserve Bank, and here we have the government. Bit of communication going on there. Right, and so then we have the various banks. So we have the registered banks. In New Zealand there are only a few protected names. One of those names is bank, another one is university. With banks you have to be registered by the Reserve Bank to be able to use the word bank. Alright, I mean, you know, you've got to have so many millions of dollars in the bank, you've got to have a track record of being a responsible banker, that kind of thing. Then we have the other financial institutions. So you and I deal with most of these, don't we? There'll only be some of the registered banks that you and I deal with. We don't deal with all of them because some of them are wholesale banks. Alright, so this is you and I communicating and dealing. Now in New Zealand, no bank can owe any other bank money at the end of the banking day. In other words, all the banks must be fully paid up. The banking day ends at 9 a.m. On the next day. So so the banks have got to make sure that they've settled up. That requirement means that we've got a very stable banking system. Okay. So the registered banks bank at the Reserve Bank. That's how they're able to settle up with each other. And these other financial institutions must bank with a registered bank. That's how they can settle up. And the government also has an account at the Reserve Bank, so it can settle up at the end of each banking day as well. That's how it works. And it works because of this thing called settlement cash. So let's go into the balance sheet of the Reserve Bank. So here's the Reserve Bank balance sheet. Now, there's an asset side over here. There's a liabilities side over here. And one of the liabilities is settlement cash. Okay, so let's put some banks here like the BNZ, ANZ, Westpac. We'll put the government in here as the Crown. And we'll put various amounts in here. Let's work in millions, it's just as easy. 20 million. So the BNZ has 50 million settlement cash, ANZ 60 million settlement cash, and so on and so forth. Now look, across a banking day, let's say that BNZ customers write out cheques worth 40 million to ANZ customers. Let's say on the same banking day that ANZ customers write out cheques to the BNZ customers of 20 million. At the end of that banking day, these two banks must settle up with each other. Okay, so what has to happen? Well, there needs to be a net flow. There needs to be a net flow from the BNZ to the ANZ. How much is that? Well, it's got to be 20 million agreed. So how can the banks do this? Well, there's an instruction given. And so what's going to happen? That's going to be reduced down to 30 million. And that's going to be increased to 80 million. There's been a transfer of 20 million at the end of the banking day. So those banks are settled up. Am I going to examine you in this? No, but it's important that you have an understanding. So, the settlement cash earns an interest rate. And what's that interest rate called? It's called the official cash rate, or the OCR for short. Okay, now if a bank needs to borrow settlement cash from the Reserve Bank because it's short, they sure can, they'll pay the OCR plus 25 basis points. Basis point is a quarter, that's a quarter of 1%. Doesn't seem like much, but when you're dealing in millions, it can be quite a considerable sum. Also, if another bank is flush with settlement cash, they can lend it to the Reserve Bank at the OCR minus 25 basis points. All right, well look, rather than deal with the Reserve Bank and incur penalties as the case may be, so this is like a penalty. This is like a penalty, isn't it? What the banks decide to do is they decide to lend settlement cash amongst themselves. And so what generally develops is what's called the overnight interbank market. Whoa, that's a very quick. Okay, we're back recording. All right, just had to eliminate some slides, so let's get back into it. Okay, so pen on, black colour, change page. Yes, that is a very quick survey of banking in New Zealand. Now, what I want to do is I just want to explore this relationship between the OCR 90-day bill rates and the interest rate of longer term securities. So let's go look. here we have the Reserve Bank, and they decide to put up the OCR. So what that means is that the banks want to move their money from 90-day bills to the OCR. As a result of that, the price of these bills is going to come down. So the price down, and what's going to happen is that the yield is going to go up. In other words, effectively the interest rate on 90-day bills is going to go up. Now, what's going to happen? People with longer term securities are going to want to invest in these 90-day bills. So it means that they're going to sell these longer term securities. What's going to happen is their price is going to come down and their yield is going to go up. So effectively the interest rate on longer term securities is going to go up. So look, I can best represent that by a yield curve. So what we've got down here is time. What we've got up on this axis is the yield. Think of the yield as being more inclusive than the interest rate. It's the overall return from a financial security. So we've got short-term securities down here, and we've got longer-term securities up here. So here's currently the yield curve, and it's upward pointing because we expect inflation over the long run. Now, if the OCR goes up, this is going to happen, is that the yield on the 90-day bills is going to go up. And what's going to happen is that the people with the longer term securities are going to buy the shorter term securities, so the price of the longer term securities is going to fall. And so this whole line here will actually shift up. Now when we go in and analyse it, what we find is at the short term end, the yield's gone up, and also at the long term end, the yield has gone up. So as a result of increasing the OCR, after a period of time, interest rates right across the economy have gone up. So that's the linkage that I want you to grab hold of. OCR up, interest rates up after a lag. All right. Well, can we work it the other way? Yeah. Look, I'm sure we can. All right. So let's just stay on red. I didn't intend that. Look, the OCR goes down. So it's going to work in reverse, isn't it? With the 90-day bills, the banks are going to rush and buy these bills. What's going to happen? The price of the bills is going to go up, and what's going to happen to the yield? The yield is going to go down. So the overall return on the bills goes down. Now, what's going to happen? Well, what's going to happen is that the people that got the 90-day bills are going to rush and buy the longer term securities. Long-term securities, because they currently have the higher yield. But what's going to happen? Well, the price of those is going to go up, and what's going to happen is that the yield is going to go down. So overall, the return on the longer term securities is going to go, yes, you've got it, it's going to go down. So what I can do is go here and draw the yield curve. Here's the short term, here's the long term. What we've got up here is yield. That's where we are at the moment on short term, that's where we are at the moment on long term. So there's our initial yield curve. So what's going to happen? The OCR and the return on short term securities is going to go down. Now they're going to rush and buy the long term securities, and what's going to happen is the demand's going to push up their price, and so the yield is going to go down. And so what we've got here is that the whole yield curve has gone down for short-term securities and for long-term securities. So what's the relationship that I want you to grab hold of? It's this one here, isn't it? This one here. The OCR down, generally interest rates down right across the economy. Well, that's pretty simple, isn't it? Okay, well look, I'm going to, oh no, we'll just do a summary.